Welcome to Silverstone, where the penultimate round of the Dunlop Endurance Championship will feature the first of two into the night races.
Rob, we've got a really interesting couple of races to end the season with these day into night races. The GT cars going around at night, something special about that, isn't there?
There is, yeah. I mean, it's fantastic. I mean, flames, glowing disc brakes, that sort of thing. And of course, with Britcar, we've got a huge mix of cars. So yeah, there's quite a lot of overtaking and a few close moments.
Second year organising the championship, compared to last year, the numbers have increased massively.
I think one of the things we've done, we've listened to the competitors. We've sort of said, right, what do you need? What do you want? What do you want at a race meeting? One-day meetings has been brilliant. And I think, yeah, we worked hard on building the lower classes up. It sort of bolsters the field, but also it proves to people that they can come in and race a Britcar. You haven't got to spend a fortune on a huge GT3 car. We've worked hard on it. We've got a lot of cars in, so we're looking good for next year.
Making its debut this weekend is this Aston Martin Vantage, run by EDF Motorsport and driven by three-time mini champion Ben Seyfried and newcomer Mal Sandford.
This is actually my first race in this car. I've done some, obviously some licence and signature races in Portugal, where I live, and we've been lucky enough to get some initial sponsorship from the Mercury Foundation, and also United Nations are currently running the Clean Seas program. They're really trying to tidy up the ocean, and we're all about supporting that, so it's great.
What are you expecting from the race once the light starts to fade later on?
I'm going to do the first stint, so nothing like doing the start in the first race in this car, but I think Ben will be better suited at night, and I dare say he'll be doing a little bit of catching up. At the end of the day, the next two races, this and Brands Hatch, is all about me getting to grips with the car in the race, and I just want to bring a clean car home.
Another Aston Martin in action will be regular Class 4 entrants Whitebridge Motorsport. Chris Murphy and Matt George having claimed their first Class Pole of the year.
Oh, and our new tyres, obviously there's still some patchy wet bits out on the track. Took a long time to get the heat in the tyres, with it only being like 4 degrees last night. So that took 6 laps probably. Got into a bit of a groove and put a really good lap in to put us on pole in class today, so looking forward to the race. It's weird, you start picking up on different senses that you don't notice in the daytime. So like I noticed yesterday that I turn in and brake on a series of bumps, which I didn't even know were there in the daytime, to be honest. But it's finding things like that help you to be consistent and ultimately over the hour be as fast as possible.
And Chris, this partnership that you've had now with Matt for the last few races seems to be working well for you as well as a driver.
It has, yeah. Matt comes and does some driver coaching for me, simulator training, and just discussing racecraft really, and it's all about confidence building and growing some you-know-whats. Technique is just about there most of the time. We can just consistently need to keep it consistent really. I've come from a background of off-road racing on quad bikes for 18 years at all different levels all around the world. So this was a big change to me, and it took an awful long time to adapt to this circuit racing and the technique and being so precise and getting it done. But we're getting there, and it's the penultimate race this year. Britcar's been really good fun, well organised, great bunch of guys come racing, so it's been good fun and thoroughly enjoyable, and we're definitely coming back next year.
The Raw Motorsport radical of Rob Weldon and Stefano Lini claimed pole position by just 24 thousandths of a second from the Ferrari of Endurance Championship leaders Whit Gamsky and Ross Wiley. The FF Course Ferrari of David Mason and Callum Lockie starts third, but sadly out at the end of the first formation lap, the RM Racing Golf of Sprint Championship frontrunners Roland Hopkins and Matt Boyce. So as dusk sets in here at Silverstone, the cars come around ready for the rolling start. There showing the 6th row of the grid that came in of Rick Nevison and the Porsche 911-997 Cup car of Dave Bennett. You're on board with him now as he tries to generate some heat in the tyres. Here we go then, ready for the penultimate round of the 2017 Dunlop Endurance Championship. To the right of your picture, the pole sitter Stefano Lini. Great start from the Mercedes from fourth. That's going to be second place for Richard Neary. On board with Tom Barley now. And on the attack here, alongside Angus Dudley in the 33 Ginetta. They've both gone past Chris Murphy's Aston Martin. And drama already, I'm afraid, for Mike Moss's BMW 1M. That car going slowly and heading for the pits. They had some water temperature problems with the car earlier on. And that could be recurring, I'm afraid. Back on board with Dave Bennett, almost into the back of Chris Murphy's Aston Martin there. As they get on the accelerator now, he loses momentum, and coming past him is Simon Moore in the top with Ginetta G50. David had a good start, picking up a couple of places, but he lost out on the exit there. It is the race leader then, Stefano Lini, the Radical, coming into Lafayette corner, and a big slide and a leery moment there for Simon Moore, who gets the car completely out of shape. The Ginetta is overtaken by the black Porsche of Dave Bennett. In the background, he managed to catch that spin somehow, Simon Moore, so he lost a couple of places and gathers it back up at the end of the first lap. Second place from fourth for Richard Neary. He's also leading the sprint category, but already losing several seconds to the race leader. Callum Lockie is third, Whit Gamsky is fourth, and this is the battle for fifth place between the 285 Ginetta of Tommy Knight and their number 24, carrying the onboard camera, Tom Barley. Simon Moore gains another place back there on the way into Copse Corner, up the inside of Rick Nevison as he recovers from that half spin on the way out of Brooklands. Fantastic first couple of laps then from the pole sitter Stefano Lini. It's only his and the Radical's second outing in Britcar. They made their debut at Alton Park in very, very wet conditions. And second place leading the sprint category, Richard Neary, very experienced GT racer. And there, Callum Lockie, full-time Britcar champion. Third overall, second in the sprint class. On board with Sarah Moore, as overtaking her is the number 57 BMW of Ed Platt. Sarah sharing this 300 brake horsepower smart car with Rob Baker this weekend. There's her brother Ed Moore, number 15, third in the sprint class, 8th overall in the Ginetta. Chris Murphy in 9th place, 10th is Dave Bennett in the Porsche. And back up with him is Simon Moore, dad of Sarah and Ed. And there he is after that half spin, quickly recovering in the Ginetta, the Tockwith Motorsports team bosses. Son Nigel Moore was the overall Britcar champion last year. Back on board with Sarah Moore. She's lost out to the BMW, but she continues to lead Class 5 in the sprint category. There's Ed Platt, who's going to hand over later in the race to Ash Bird, this BMW. Back on board with Dave Bennett, who runs out wide, and coming through onto the Wellington Straight then is Simon Moore to regain the position that he had right at the start of the race. But the Porsche is coming back at him. Look, good bit of out-braking here by Dave Bennett to close the gap back up as they go left into Brooklands corner here. Finding the wheel, the temperatures will drop as, of course, the sun goes down here. We go dark later on in this race. As ever, those contesting the sprint category will do just the first 50 minutes of the race. Those in the endurance category, like the race leader there, Stefano Lini, will be doing a full 2-hour endurance. Now we're going to get a replay of the start on board with Sarah Moore, who started 17th and got a rocket ship start, drawing alongside the Aston Martin Vantage of newcomer Mal Sandford. And ahead is the Alfa Romeo of Barry McMahon. The Aston and the Alfa get very close together into turn one at Copse Corner. Sarah carries the momentum around the outside, having already gained a couple of positions off the line. The Aston Martin's got plenty of grunt in a straight line, but Sarah sneaks down the inside here on the way into Maggots. By the time they get to the Beckett's corner, she was through. They're in second place overall then, the Team ABBA Roll Centre Racing Mercedes of Richard Neary. He's been driving this 6.2 litre V8 in the British GT Championships this year. And there is a former British GT champion back in 2000. Callum Lockie was the overall title winner before then becoming a multiple Britcar champion. He's third overall, fourth place overall for the championship leaders in endurance. MJC Furlonger, the Ferrari of Whit Gamsky, which will hand over to Ross Wiley for the second part of the race. And this then still nose to tail, the battle for 5th, 6th and 7th positions between the three Team Hard Ginettas. On board with Tom Barley, trying to chase down Tommy Knight. They are so close in the battle for the class and overall championship titles. Mal Sandford then is coming back now at Barry McMahon in the Alfa Romeo. So Mal getting into the rhythm now in the Aston Martin with a good move there at the inside into Copse Corner to get ahead of the very experienced Alfa racer at Barry McMahon. Mal accelerates then out of Copse Corner, but he's not shaken off Barry McMahon just yet, and the Alpha 156 whips back down the inside into Maggots. They go right through Beckett's now, where they turn off the Grand Prix circuit. Already the low sunlight is starting to be an issue for the drivers, glaring at them through certain corners. The Alpha just a bit twitchy as it accelerates out onto the Wellington straight. The Aston Martin is now coming back at him, and the EDF Motorsport car gets the position back as they head towards Brooklands. And look at this fight between the Ginettas. Tom Barley's close as he can be now on the way to Copse Corner. Tommy Knight, who normally ran second in the 285 Ginetta, but has taken the start this time. Darren Lewis will be going next. They're all coming up to be lapped by the overall race leader and the Radical. There is Simon Moore pulling away now from Dave Bennett's Porsche in that number 25 Ginetta G50, an older version Ginetta than the G55s, which the Team Hard cars run. And there Ed Platt now, number 57, onto the tail of Rick Neverson, having pulled away from the smart car of Sarah Moore, who gets it up onto three wheels as she pushes the car as hard as she can on the way through the right-hander at Luffield. Back on board with Tom Barley, coming onto the brakes into Brooklands Corner, and alongside him has come Angus Dudley in the 33 car. Onto the curbs goes Barley, and through comes Angus Dudley, who splits the fight. So Tom has been trying to desperately get the lead of the class, but in the end he loses out to his teammate. There is Chris Murphy in the Aston Martin, making his way now out onto the Wellington straight. And there to make his pit stop midway through the sprint category 50-minute portion of the race is Richard Neary from second place overall. So Callum Lockie will pick up the place. Callum will extend his run as long as he can before handing over to David Mason. So they're still going very well indeed. Is the number 15 Ginetta of Ed Moore. He'll now pick up second place in the sprint category, with Richard Neary's Mercedes going for its pit stop. Back on board with Tom Barley then. Just edging away from him is Angus Dudley. Ahead of the pair of them is Tommy Knight. The three Team Hard Ginettas battling for what is now fourth place overall and for the lead of Class 3 in the endurance category. And Angus Dudley launches another move down the inside into Brooklands and gains another place. Same spot where he got past Tom Barley. That's 2 places gained for the teenager in 2 consecutive laps. And that means that Tom Barley gets back on terms with them. We've had an off-road excursion here for the number 18 White Moss BMW, which has been in and out of the pit so far in this race. That was down at Beckett's. We get a replay now with Mal Sanford, who was right behind that moment. A huge lock-up there from Mike Moss, who went skidding wide, avoided the spin and got back on track. There's now a very atmospheric feel to this special day into night race here at Silverstone. Their back out is Richard Neary, who continues to lead the sprint category as they approach the conclusion of their 50-minute portion of the race. There's Callum Lockie on the pit wall now. He was behind the wheel of the FF Course Ferrari that was running second in the sprint category. And there's Ross Wiley, who's about to hop into the MJC Furlonger Ferrari, which is now up to second place overall behind the Radical of Stefano Lini. So Wick Gamsky brings the car in as we go back on board with Tom Barley in the number 24 Team Hard Ginetta, second in the overall Endurance Championship. This then is the battle for third place overall. Ahead is Angus Dudley in the sister car. So Tom and Angus have now both dispatched of Tommy Knight. There he is in the number 285 Ginetta. He was leading the class earlier on, but has now slipped to third in Class 3 and fifth place overall. Here comes the Bespoke Cards Porsche, now driven by Marcus Fothergill, who's taken over from Dave Bennett, and that car is now up to third place overall in the sprint class. Right behind him, but a lap down, is the number 25 Ginetta, which was started by Simon Moore, now driven by Lucas Nanetti on his Britcar debut. They've dropped back because they had to serve a drive-through penalty for a pit stop infringement. There's Simon Moore to the right of your picture. Sarah Moore, his daughter, to the left of your picture, was driving the smart car. Rob Baker is now driving the smart car. That is now serving a drive-through penalty for a similar incident. And the other Ginetta of Tockwith Motorsport, Ed Moore and Marmaduke, which was running third in the sprint category, also had a drive-through penalty for a similar infringement. So up to fourth in the class now is the number 17 Rick Neverson, Sean Cooper, track-focused Porsche Cayman, as out of the pits goes Ross Wiley to see if he can start to close the gap to the leaders. We're heading into the night here at Silverstone, and it's Callum Hawkins Rowe who's going to take over the number 33 Ginetta from Angus Dudley. On board with Tom Barley, who is right behind the Angus Dudley car still in the battle for third place overall. The race leader in the Radical, Stefano Lini, laps them, then runs out wide at the exit to Brooklands Corner. So we'll see if that cost them too much time. Meanwhile, these two Ginettas are coming up to traffic. A twitch there as he gets on the throttle from Angus Dudley. And coming back at him now is Tom Barley. This is for the lead of the class. It's going to be effectively for third place overall, and he sneaks through. So Tom Barley with a really important move there for the championship. The sprint sprint category race is over. The 50 minutes up. Richard Neary's Mercedes, you saw there. The winner of the category, Callum Lockie and David Mason, have taken second place in that class. And while the sprint category cars come in to head back to the paddock, it is time for the pit stop for the number 285 Ginetta as Tommy Knight, it gets out. Darren Lewis is going to take over once the car is refueled. And they are not just battling with the other two Team Hard Ginettas for a class win here, but they're also fighting for the overall championship title. Confirmation of the sprint class result. Dave Bennett and Marcus Fothergill completing the top three and winning their class, despite success penalties meaning they had to serve the maximum possible pit stop time.
Kept myself tidy, to be honest with you, it was easy. And then brought it in, first in class, but 145 seconds, a long time to wait. But, you know, Marcus did a good job, caught everything up and brought it home. And, you know, could have stayed out there for another 2 hours. It was really good, really lovely.
How was the light when it began to fade? Did that affect things at all?
Not for me particularly. I suppose the sunset, the sun setting was difficult, which was quite interesting. That's that Le Mans feel, isn't it? You know, when you see the sun going down and it catches your eye on the Mulsanne Straight. But no, it was good. It was very good.
Into the pits for its scheduled stop comes this pristine EDF Motorsport prepared Aston Martin Vantage. Mal Sandford ends what's been a successful first stint in Britcar and first time out here at Silverstone. Right behind them, Darren Lewis heads out on track of the Team Hard Racing Ginetta. He and Tommy Knight have had to serve a 145-second minimum pit stop time. That's 25 seconds longer than the other two Team Hard cars. That's because of success penalties gathered over the last few rounds. The light's almost completely gone now as we ride with Tom Barley, nearing the end of his stint in the Team Hard Ginetta, running in third place overall and leading Class 3. He had an entertaining battle with Angus Dudley, whose teammate Callum Hawkins-Rowe has now taken over the number 33 Ginetta.
I mean, I'd like to have probably got through on the start if I could, but it was good. There was no contact, sort of nice clean racing to start with, and I just saw them battling, so I worked my way back. And I think it was down into Brooklyn, so I did both of them one lap after the other, so it was really exciting at the start.
And now it's the turn of Tom Barley to come in the number 24 Ginetta. He's driving this weekend with Adam Hatfield, who's stepping in to replace Simon Rudd for this one race, because Simon is best man at a wedding. Poor excuse, but there you go. The Team Hard crew step in to refuel the car once the drivers are clear. In comes the Whitebridge Motorsport Aston Martin with a grazed right rear corner. That's because Chris Murphy has had an off and has had to limp back to the pits. There's also been drama for the race leaders because on the way in, the car ran out of fuel, had to stop on track to switch on the reserve tank. It cost them a huge amount of time, so they've now lost the lead of the race to Whit Gamsky and Ross Wiley, who's behind the wheel of the MJC Furlonger Ferrari. So the championship leaders on course for a much-needed victory. Back in the pit lane, Team Hard are holding Adam Hatfield to make sure he doesn't undercut the minimum pit stop time for the number 24 Team Hard Ginetta. They're looking at the clock, now they wave him out. Back out he'll go, and he should be still in the lead of the class and third place overall. Adam went well in the team's ex-BTCC Toyota Aventus at a very wet Alton Park last time out. Game over, I'm afraid, though, for the Whitebridge Motorsport Aston. Too much damage done after that off for Chris Murphy, so Matt George, I'm afraid, won't get to drive. We can hear now, though, from Tom Barley.
That was phenomenal. That was the most fun I've had all year. Massive thanks to IG.com for making this year happen, and let's hope we get another win.
It's great that you race so close, but I mean, you have to be a bit careful because you're all teammates, but it's close, but it always seems fair.
Yeah, we've got to keep it respectful. We're all in the same stable, so to speak. Good racing, close. I'm just glad I came out on top.
And you still want to eye on the championship? You're still in with a fight?
Massively, yeah. I think there's about 3 points in it at the moment, so we'll see how we look at the end of the race.
We're into the closing stages of the race here at Silverstone. The checkered flag is almost within touching distance for the race leaders, MJC Furlonger, but Ross Wiley cannot afford to relax for one moment because it's now completely dark, the temperatures have dropped, and the slightest error could be disaster. They're in second place. Rob Weldon has now taken over the Radical from Stefano Lini, who did a very good job in the first stint. Adam Hatfield and Tom Barley look set for third, but fourth place is still up for grabs, and this is Darren Lewis firing one around the outside at Brooklands. He'll have the inside line for Lovefield. He gets past Callum Hawkins-Rowe, and a wonderful move that for fourth place overall. I don't think Darren's going to have time to catch Adam Hatfield, so it's going to be a Class 3 win for the number 24 Ginetta, and that's going to close the gap at the top of the points table. Well, a big crowd gathered here to watch this fantastic spectacle, the day into night race. Glowing disc brakes, flame-spitting exhaust, and average speeds approaching 110 miles an hour. It's been a real sight for them. Going very, very slowly on this final lap to make sure he doesn't have to do another one with fuel perhaps an issue is Ross Wiley. He's well clear, though, of the Radical, and the checkered flag comes out. MJC Furlong a win here at Silverstone. The team has also played its part with clever fuel management to get them to the end with just the one stop in this 2-hour race. Confirmation of the results then: Gamsky and Wiley win, Leaney and Weldon in second. Barley and Hatfield complete the top three.
Rob, well done. That was a good day's work. That car looks fantastic, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a cracking bit of kit. I really enjoyed driving it. Just a shame we didn't quite make it on the fuel. You know, we knew it was going to be so marginal. But at the end of the day, you know, whether we had the legs to give the Ferrari run for money with the extra stop, it would have been close. So we'll never know. We'll have to have another crack at Brands.
What was it like today with the light and the fading light in the race?
Lack of light, I think, is the best way to describe it. It's it's dark. It's seriously dark, and the lights on the car, although they're okay, it's so hard to pick reference points. You're sort of doing it, as Steph said, almost on muscle memory. You know, picking out reference points and pretty much hoping for the best, especially towards the end when there's not so many cars about. It's really hard to sort of stay focused and hit your apexes every time. So, but it's a good experience. Really enjoyed it.
And great job by you. And you picked up the driver of the day as well. Well done.
Yeah, really happy with that. I wasn't expecting that at all. But Bob gave me a job to do, and that was to build up the largest lead that we could, and I managed to do that. But unfortunately, fuel got the better of us this time. So, it was challenging. It's the first time I've ever done anything like this. So it was a real eye opener, and it was pretty hard work towards the end, because doing 70 laps mod around this circuit, full chat is quite a workout. So.
Ross, well done. That was an experience, wasn't it?
It was fantastic. I've raced in the Golf 12-hour where it was all under, floodlight situation, but nothing quite like that. So, it was a great experience, and to do it in the Ferrari GTE was fantastic. We were on fuel-saving mode right from the word go, and it was touch and go at the end, but that just made it a little bit more exciting for us. When we were lifting and coasting, we weren't really working the tyres quite as hard, so it did make it quite challenging, but I enjoy a challenge.
Despite the win, Gamsky and Wiley don't score maximum points because of a less than full entry in their class, so there's now only 3 points between the top 3 in endurance with a round to go, and Track Focus now head the sprint class. And if you enjoyed the spectacle of night racing, the good news is that we get to do it again, twice, at the Brands Hatch season finale. Thanks for watching.